Hey guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Mihir, and in this video I'll be talking about what an exchange traded fund is, or an ETF. Basically, the best way to understand what an ETF is to read it backwards. An ETF, so it stands for exchange traded funds. If you go backwards, it's funds traded on the exchange, and by exchange I'm referring to the stock exchange. But the greatest way I believe to understand what an ETF is to understand a mutual fund. I'm going to pull out the definition of a mutual fund from Investopedia. According to them, a mutual fund is an investment vehicle made up of a pool of funds collected from many investors for the purpose of investing in securities. This money goes to a professional investment manager who invests the money according to the goals of the mutual fund. For example, if your ETF is tracking the ASX 200, the top 200 companies in Australia, it will invest a small percentage of your money into each of those companies, maybe 2% or something along those lines. For me personally, I have invested in BetaShares Global Sustainability Leaders ETF, which aims to track the performance of the Nasdaq Future Global Sustainability Leaders Index of 100 companies. This ETF gives me exposure to companies such as Apple, MasterCard, Visa, Adobe, and Nvidia, Netflix, and Nike, along with many more. Now you may be wondering, what is the difference between an ETF and a mutual fund? There are two main differences between an ETF and a mutual fund. The first main difference is that the ETF can be traded anytime during the ASX trading hours, or whatever stock exchange you're using, whereas in a mutual fund you'd have to get it at the end of the day for it to process your order. The second biggest difference between those two is that it costs a lot more to maintain a mutual fund compared to an ETF. A mutual fund is around 2% depending on obviously the company, whereas ETFs can be as little as 0.35%. Before I move on and show some more practical examples, a common misconception about an ETF is that it's designed to beat the market. However, this is far from it. The ETF's goal, or its aim, is to participate in the market rather than beat it. And I'll show you this in the following example. To give you a practical example, I'm going to be showing you an ETF known as the S&P ASX 300, which tracks the top 300 Australian companies. As seen in these graphs, it is clear that the trend is the same, as the underlying purpose of an ETF is not to beat the market but participate in the market instead. So if the economy booms or the index booms, so will the ETF, and if the index or economy declines, so will the ETF. Now you may be wondering, what are the pros and the cons of an ETF? One pro of an ETF is that it's easy to invest and understand. Like I showed you the layout before, it's a very straightforward, very user-friendly layout that anyone can understand it. It's not too complicated. Another pro is that it's cost-effective, meaning you may need a minimum of $50 to start investing. However, if you were to invest in individual stocks through the ComSec app, you need a minimum of $500. Third pro is that it's highly diversified. For example, the ETF tracking the ASX 300, or the top 300 companies, it has basically distributed a small percentage into each of these companies. For example, let's say if 10 of them go bankrupt or something like that happens, you still have 290 other companies. Another pro is that there's low volatility. As an ETF is tracking a market or sort of an index, it's not going to go too high or too low, which can be both good or bad depending on the situation. However, it's really good in the long term. Another benefit is low fees. For example, the ComSec app charges $2 for an order under $1,000 as a brokerage fee. Another pro on this list is high liquidity, as unlike property, which can take months to sell, you can sell ETFs relatively easy. So a con for an ETF is its maintenance fees, which range around from 0.35 per annum to 0.55 per annum, which isn't as high as mutual funds. However, it still can be considered a con to some people. Lastly, another con is that it's susceptible to the market, meaning if the market thrives, so will the ETF, and if the market for some reason crashes, so will the ETF, and the property manager cannot do anything, as it's his goal or duty to allow that ETF to follow the market trend. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button, hit subscribe, and click on the notification bell icon so you don't miss any more. Besides that, I hope you have a lovely day.